Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome to the last drawing journal for my YouTube channel. Today I am working on a challenge to myself. I started this last week or something like that. I don't know when I started it exactly, but essentially what I wanted to challenge myself to was doing the most realistic drawing that I could. It's been like 4 or 5 years or something. I don't really remember exactly how long it's been that I've tried to do photorealism. So that is what I'm doing, and just gonna see how close I can get. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Oh, hey there, Chrissy. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. It's been a while since I live streamed on my YouTube channel. Just been working on other projects and focusing mainly on teaching over on Patreon. So if you have been missing my live streams, Patreon, I live stream twice a week over there, so you can always join me on Patreon if you've been missing the live streams. And of course, next week, Inktober starts up, so I'll be doing the daily live streams for Inktober, and I'm going to be doing something different this year. Many of you that are in the Unmask family Facebook group, which if you're not, I have a link for that in the description. You can join. I'm gonna be drawing all of you as little chibis, including myself. I'll be drawing the whole Unmask family. Anybody that wants to participate, I suppose I haven't exactly explained what I'll be doing, so I figured today, since most of the family will be here on the live stream, hopefully anyway, I can give you guys a little bit of a heads up as what you can expect for the Inktober daily live streams. So what I'll be doing, simplified, is I have several large sheets of paper, and I'll just be using a large sheet of paper, and I'm going to just draw 1 or 2 family members a day and inking them. I don't think I'll be using my Copic markers, funny enough, because I bought them specifically for Inktober, but I wanted to do something different this year. So probably just do an ink drawing, and then maybe at the end of the month what I'll do is, once I have the nice line art, I will take a real nice photo of it, and I'll let you guys color in the line art as you wish. So I'll upload the line art so you guys can print it off or whatever you want to do, or trace it, and then you can color the family. Hello Lindy, Gila, Bonnie, Jelena, Barbara, Severin, Danny, and Janice. Good to see all of you. Thank you so much for coming by. If you guys have any questions for me, I'm always available to answer questions, by the way. But continuing on my description of what I'll be doing for Inktober, after today's live stream, I'll make a post kind of reiterating some of the main things about it in the Unmask family Facebook page, and I'll also be requesting photos from you guys. Oh, you can't see what I'm working on, can you? I'll just move this. Let me just zoom in a little bit. There. I'm not really doing, when you do these photorealistic pictures, there's not going to be a whole lot accomplished today, so don't get too excited. But it's a very, very slow and tedious process. So I'll be taking my time. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm gonna post in the Unmask family page, and in the comment section, what I want is for anybody that wants to be drawn for this Inktober chibi version, then I'll need a picture of you for obvious reasons. And what I want not just a selfie, but a picture in an outfit that you want to be drawn in, if you care to be so specific. But I want to try to capture your guys' likeness as much as possible, a bit of your style, personality, and so a head-to-toe photo of you, and that would be most ideal for me to turn you into a little chibi for Inktober. So I'll post that after today's live stream, and then you guys can comment your photo there, and I will just use that as reference. I won't share your photo or anything. It's just I'll just use it as reference each day to turn you into a chibi. Yeah, you better book an appointment with your stylist. Absolutely. So yeah, that's the rundown on what I'll be doing for Inktober. And if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to ask. I think that starts on Tuesday next week, so it's coming quick. I have not been mentally prepared for Inktober, and I still am not mentally prepared at all. For those of you that also subscribe to Extras Art there in the chat, Chrissy, most of you know Chrissy. We were on her stream on Wednesday. She had brought up my painting, and I said that I'd be sharing it very soon, and that it is coming. The painting is completely done, with the exception of varnishing. I have to wait like a year to varnish it. But so the paint is still a little uneven as far as gloss goes, but that will be fixed once I'm able to varnish it. The joys of working with oil paint. But the video, I started editing the video yesterday, and the reason it's taken me a little extra time to even get into the editing is because I've taken like 40 photographs of the painting. For those of you that have tried to photograph your own art, know the difficulty of getting a decent looking photo of your work. Well, multiply that by 20, and that's how difficult it is to take a good photograph of a oil painting, because oil paints, they have both matte and gloss finishes with the paint itself, and then of course I did about 3 weeks worth of glazing using like a linseed oil mix, and so there's a little bit of patchiness as far as like where it's satin and where it's matte and where it's like really glossy. And so having essentially it makes it almost impossible to take a photo using light, which if you don't have light, it's impossible to take a photo. So it's been really hard taking a good photo of it, and because I've been wanting the best possible photo that I could get, what I ended up doing is taking like a million different photos, different days, different angles and everything, and then trying to, color correct it and fix little issues with the photo, and then I would just look at the photo. So I've had like several of them on my desktop or whatever, and I'd look at them, and if there was anything that just I didn't feel like it captured the way the oil painting looks, then I would start all over again, take a new photo, edit it, and then stare at it for like 3 days. And yeah, so it's been a process just getting a good photo of it. And even now with the photo that I plan on using, I'm still like really unsatisfied with the way that the photo looks in comparison to the painting in real life. But I guess that's just the way it's going to have to be, because you just can't take it. It's not possible. You can't take a compelling photo of an oil painting. It's just not possible. You can do your best, yeah, and you can probably get a decent looking photo, but when you have the actual painting in front of you and then you look at the photograph, it's nothing but disappointment. So yeah, that's why it took me some time to finally start the editing process. And I've been editing for the past 2 days. I pretty much have been working on it today already for about 6 hours now, and it's going to be great. I think it's going to be probably one of my best videos. Just as far as like planning goes, I spent 6 months. I spent 6 months just planning the video. Okay, so I've put like so much time into just the video side of things, and having it all come together now is very, very exciting for me. Because I mean, for those of you that don't know, I've been painting this painting for the past 13 months now. I started it back in like early September of last year, and we're coming up on October, so but yeah, so there's the progress on the painting. I hope that I can make the video live on Monday. So that's my plan. I think I might have missed a couple questions. If I happen to miss any of your question, feel free to ask it again. So since this is your last drawing journal, hello Wendy, by the way, what do you have up your sleeve? You said you had other plans. Yes, I do have other plans. I'll get into that a little bit. What paper am I using? This is Stonehenge vellum paper on the back side. So the vellum, the Stonehenge vellum paper has a slightly toothier side, and that has a smoother side. And I went ahead and used the smoother side. It's very subtle, but you can, if you look closely, you can see the difference. So that's the paper I'm using. Is blending with a colorless alcohol marker for colored pencils working for you? Yes, it works for me, but I don't use that method because I find it to be less efficient than just using solvent in a paintbrush. Because with a marker, you're going to have, it's really hard to clean the marker out, first off, and then also it's not going to last nearly as long. So if you kind of do a cost analysis of alcohol colorless marker versus solvent, you can buy a 200 milliliter bottle of solvent for about $7 or $8. And that 200 mil will last you easily. It will last you 2 to 3 years. Okay? But a single marker doing the same amount of work will probably only last you 2, maybe 3 months. And it's going to work not as efficient as a paintbrush anyway. And then, so say the marker cost you $2, and that's pretty cheap for a colorless marker. You're going to be spending more, you're going to be spending about $12 a year, $10 to $12 a year on markers that you could spend half that much for a bottle of solvent that's going to last you 2 to 3 times that length. So it's not very cost effective. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So back to your question, Wendy. This is the last drawing journal. I won't be doing drawing journals anymore after this, and I've been, I've really been going through a lot of different ideas the past couple months. I haven't even been doing the drawing journals for like 2 months now, and I mean, my goodness, I think the last drawing journal I did was before my wife and I's vacation to Amsterdam, which was back in August. So it's been a long time, and the reason I'm not doing it anymore is because I don't like the way that it has tied me down. Because I committed to doing the drawing journal every Monday, and I was very, very consistent for most of the year, pretty much all the way from January. I did it every Monday, with the exception of a couple weeks in there. But the problem that I had with it, that just kind of slowly developed, was that it requires me to always be working on something. And I don't have a problem working on something all the time because I like to do that. But because I had to work on something and try to come up with an idea for the drawing journal to help, the algorithm, the big monster YouTube algorithm, so that the videos, the live streams were beneficial to my channel. I had to do like a lot of planning just for the live stream, and it tied up a lot of my extra time. So a lot of my time offline, I was thinking, okay, what project am I going to do? Oh, I need to finish this project so that I can start a new one. I don't want to be working on the same thing every drawing journal, because then what am I going to title it? What am I going to talk about? And how am I going to bring in new viewers with that live stream? So I'm going to be reevaluating my live streams, and most likely my live stream schedule. The once a week thing for YouTube is rather difficult, because I have to spend the week in between also doing the 2 live streams for Patreon. I have students that I teach also that I need to make sure that I dedicate time to, and then of course editing videos, writing scripts, coming up with new ideas, starting new projects, making reference photos, and just so many other things. It's just a constant grind, and I didn't feel like the drawing journals were fun. They are fun. I love just hanging out and chatting with you guys, which is why I'm going to keep live streaming. But I'm not going to be tying myself down to the drawing journal live streams every Monday. And instead, I'll probably be doing them like once every other week, or maybe once a month. And the content that I hope to create with the new live streams, I'm hoping is just more fun, like to watch, and because that's kind of the thought process that I've been going through, and I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do for the new live streams, but I haven't committed to a solid idea, and I mean, after the past couple days of finally editing a video, because oh gosh, I haven't edited a video in like to this degree in for so long. I maybe 5 or 6 months or something like that. It's been a while since I've spent some time not just putting video clips together, but also trying to tell a story, trying to make the video enjoyable to watch, even if you're not an artist. That's what I've always tried to do with my time-lapse videos. I always try to push myself with my editing and videography skills to just make them more interesting for everyone to watch. And so that's what I'm doing with this video. And I've never made a video like this before. And I'm doing a lot of different editing things and learning new things in the process. It's a lot of fun, and I miss that. I miss doing that. I used to, spend a lot of time thinking about the way I was going to shoot and edit a video. Used to do it with pretty much all of my time lapses, and it's gotten away from me because I've kind of used the fact that I can create content simply by just turning on my camera, plugging in my microphone, and live streaming to you guys for an hour or two. And yeah, so just going through some changes, that's all. And I think that even for those of you that hate to hear that the drawing journal is going away, I think you'll be pleased with the evolution of what comes next. And I think it's just time. I was thinking about just waiting for the end of the year, but when you think about it, waiting for the end of the year is just as arbitrary as the end of September. So it didn't make sense for me to just continue doing something that I didn't feel like was beneficial for any extra period of time. I'm still hoping for the pastel portrait course. Well, Helen, I have some good news for you. The pastel portrait course, I wanted to actually get that done back in July of this year. And here's the problem that I continue to have with preparing and recording the pastel portrait course. The biggest problem was that I couldn't find a reference photo that I liked. I considered using the same reference photo that I used for the colored pencil portrait, but I really wanted to do a guy. I wanted to do the portrait course using a guy's photo. And I was looking through, I spent months looking through the royalty-free, or not the royalty-free, but the stock photos on several different websites, because when I do my courses, I want to buy the photograph so that I don't have to deal with like legal stuff as far as like whatever that word is, I can't think of it right now, copyright. So I was looking through all of the reference websites that sell the commercial rights to the photos, and I couldn't find a decent picture of a guy. The problem that I was having is I didn't want to do an old guy with like a beard or something, because I didn't want that level of complexity in the course. It needs to be a entry level portrait, not something highly complex like this portrait that I'm doing now is extremely complex as far as color and detail. So that's what I was looking for, but I also needed something that isn't studio lit. It can't be a studio photograph because that's a terrible reference photo. And then I wanted the guy to be just normal looking. but for some reason, all the pictures have to be like the guys are making goofy faces, or they just look dumb, or they have this facial expression that just makes them look arrogant, and I don't like that. So it's one extreme or the other. It's either the person looks like just way too arrogant and I can't stand the facial expression, or they're making a goofy, stupid face that I don't want anything to do with, because that also adds a level of complexity that I don't want in the course. And or it's studio lit, or it's just a bad photo. Like in the process of trying to find this reference photo, because as I said, I spent a long time trying to find a halfway decent reference photo, and I came to the conclusion that the reason I draw female portraits so much more often is not because of any like conscious or even subconscious choice of just preferring females, but because for every 100,000 great photos of a female, there is maybe one halfway decent photo of a guy. And it never occurred to me. But if you look through pictures, a majority of pictures are of females. If you, for instance, go to any website that does like human figures or training or whatever. I don't know names of websites or anything, but just there's websites like Daily Sketches where you can go through a slideshow of pictures and set it up so you can only look at the picture for like 1 minute or 5 minutes or something, and it's supposed to help you just do sketches and work on your human form. I guarantee you go through the pictures, and I'd say anywhere between 5 to 10% of the pictures will be of a guy. Doing male figures or male form is so much harder because like there's 40,000 female figure pictures or portraits to the one guy, and I never noticed that before. I never noticed that until I started looking for a halfway decent reference photo. So that's what I've been trying to deal with the pastel portrait course. There was a few photos in there that I thought that I thought I could use, and I looked at them for a few days and I was like, I can't use it. Like I just don't want to do it, and I don't want to use a picture just for the sake of finding a picture and using it. I want to use a picture that I like, and because otherwise I'll get bored in the middle of it. I don't like drawing things I don't like looking at. And so what ended up happening is that I just didn't make the course, right? That I didn't make the pastel portrait course. And I've been thinking about it, it's been weighing on me, because I kept saying that, I want to make this course, blah, blah, blah. And I had every intention of making it. I was mentally prepared to do it, but I just couldn't commit to a reference photo, and it was driving me absolutely crazy. And so right now on Patreon, for the pastel project, we're working on a mermaid, and it's a rather complex project and quite difficult. And we've spent a lot of time on it so far, a little over a month, I think. I think we're on part 6 or something like that, so 6 weeks next Tuesday. And I was considering just making the pastel course or the The pastel portrait course, I was considering just doing it on Patreon, and and then taking the live streams from that and just quickly packaging it and then putting it on my website, so people could just buy that one course all together, or they could just join Patreon and watch it live streamed. And then, the people that are on Patreon, they'll have access to that course, so they'll get to be a part of that course via the live streams, and then they won't have to pay for the course later on. They'll just be able to access it through YouTube or whatever, or Patreon. And so that's what I was considering doing, because that saves me a lot of production, and with production comes cost, because I'll have to buy another hard drive. Been going through hard drives like crazy with all the video files and stuff. Terabyte means nothing to me. Let's see. I hope I didn't miss any questions. Channels evolve over time, and it is interesting to watch the transformations of channels. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like my channel has changed so much from the very beginning. Like, it doesn't even, I don't even feel like I'm doing the same stuff anymore. So yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Absolutely not. I will not use my own face for. I'm not using my own face for the course. No, it's gonna be a while before I do another self-portrait. So that won't be happening. Sorry to disappoint you. Oh, take care, Jillian. I hope that I made your lunch break good. Where did you get the reference photo for this? Your drawing looks so amazing. The reference photo for this I got off of a website called Unsplash, which is one of those photography dump sites where photographers like upload their junk photos, but they allow you to use them for free reference photos. And since they use a good camera, generally they tend to be very high resolution, and you can just download them for free. I consider Unsplash to be superior to Pixabay, because the photos tend to be a little bit more on the artistic side, which generally just makes them a bit more interesting. And one of my like daily habits is to just go to Pixabay and Unsplash and scroll through some of the photos, and if I find something that I think is interesting, I'll just download it and save it in a folder. And I have like a 20 gigabytes worth of reference photos on my hard drive, like so many photos. And I mean, most of the time I won't actually draw them, but I came across this photo and I cropped this down. I think originally it had her mouth and maybe more of her forehead, but I wanted to crop it down because like I said, the photos are just a dump site usually, and partially for a little bit of free promotion for the photographer. So I cropped it down for this to make it look like this, and I was just randomly inspired to start it. I was kind of sitting here, I think it was last weekend or last Friday or something, and I was like, you know what? It's been a long time since I've tried to get super realistic with my colored pencil work, and I've never fully committed. I've never really felt like I had fully committed to doing photorealism, really on anything ever. Colored pencils, oil, acrylic, anything. And so I just wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to see if I could take that quite complex reference photo and just draw it as photorealistic as I possibly can. And I'm in obviously no rush to finish this because I've been working on just this small strip for, well, not that long, but like 40 minutes now. But for this left side that you can't see right now, but for this left side here, I've already spent like 25 hours on, which this isn't done. Like, I just wanted to move on to this side of the face and start getting it filled in. I would say that as far as I got with the 25 hours worth of work on this side of the face, I'd put it at about 80% complete. There's still things that I want to touch up and smooth out. Mostly this forehead part because it's blurry, it's out of focus, and it's not real fun to work on. And then also the bridge of the nose here. But there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcutting photorealism. And the truth is, this project will probably take me about 100 hours, like minimum, I imagine. And I'm just willing to do that on this project. And this is the first time that I've even worked on it on video, because I haven't been recording the process or anything like that. This is just a project that I work on when I don't want to do anything else. You know, it's like my break time project. And so that's what allows me to just maintain a very secure level of patience with it. Oh, hey there, Mache. Good to see you. It's been a while. Are you going to the pre-release on Sunday? Let's see. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. It's nice to see you back for a night. Love heaps of the course, whatever you do. Well, thank you, Shiny. Is it difficult to find a good male photo? Absolutely. Oh, it is. You're agreeing with me. I have 2 sons I want to draw, but I need more skills first. Those skin tones are the worst nightmare for me. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mache. I wasn't sure. I was thinking about going. I haven't even played Magic in like, I haven't played Magic since January. How am I? Or how about me? Yeah, well, I just explained. I was considering going, and I might go because my wife is going shopping with her mom, so I don't have anything to do really, other than edit my video. So I don't know. I guess it just depends on whether or not I decide to do that. Maybe I'll just zoom out a little bit. There. Oh, thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. You know, the funny thing about this project is that I have used exclusively Polychromos pencils for it. And I mean, for those of you that have known me for some time and heard me talk about Polychromos pencils, I've never been a fan of Polychromos. I've always had them, or I've had them for a really long time, but I almost never use them. But in the past like month and a half or whatever, I have been gravitating more and more towards Polychromos. And to be honest with you, I don't know why. I think I may have just felt a little guilty of buying them and never using them, and then also complaining about them all the time because of their oversaturated and really weird color selection. But with this project, exclusively using Polychromos, I've actually really enjoyed them. And there's a unique quality about them that I will be using in a little bit, that the Prismacolor and the Luminance you just can't do with. And one of the other things about this project is that I haven't used any solvent to do my blending. I've actually been using just a regular blending stump to do my blending. And it creates kind of the same effect that you get with blending with solvent, with one exception. It doesn't change the color of the pigment. With some pencils, when you blend them with solvent, it will either intensify the saturation or it will change the color slightly. It just, with experience, you can avoid those things. But blending the Polychromos with a blending stump, which I have done before, but I've only done it on monochromatic pieces. I've never tried it with colors. And it works really well. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just worked really, really well. And it fills in the tooth of the paper quite nicely. I don't know how it shows on video for you guys, but there's still a bit of graininess that no matter like how much I've applied colors, it just kind of stays there. But like for instance, this black over here, it is as dark as I think I could ever get with any colored pencil. And I got that black with Polychromos, which I never really thought that you could. But this strip here took probably about 3 hours to do. And with my black, I literally just would go in there, and wherever I see a gap or like a part of the paper showing through, I would just poke that little spot until it filled up. And I just sit there and poke it. And that's what I've done with pretty much this entire section, with the exception of this forehead area, which I have to work on. But yeah, I can't say, Anna, that I don't like Polychromos anymore. Now I have to say that I really like Polychromos. Like, I'm forcing myself to work with them. I've learned to use them the way that makes them good. Whereas before, I always kind of expected them to work like Prismacolor and Luminance. And since I had used Prismacolor for like 5 years, for like the first 5 years of doing colored pencils, Luminance was a natural pencil to use after that. But then when I tried Polychromos, it was different, and I didn't adapt to it. Instead, I wanted to use Polychromos the way that I use Prismacolors and Luminance. And the truth that I had to come to grips with is that you can't use Polychromos the way that you use Luminance and Prismacolor. There's just a different approach you have to take in order to enjoy the pencils. And with this project, and choosing to use Polychromos on it, I've learned to adapt to the pencil in a way that makes me like working on it, working with them. But one of the things that I've been really, really liking about them is being able to blend them with just a pencil stump. Oh, hello, Marcy. Welcome, welcome. Also, the other thing, this paper here, this is Stonehenge vellum paper, which is pretty much the roughest paper that I will use with colored pencils. And so there's a little bit more tooth to it. You can get a few more layers down. But generally my favorite paper is the 500 series Strathmore Bristol plate, which is insanely smooth. But that paper does not work well with Polychromos, and I don't think there's really any way around that. I don't know if I can adapt Polychromos to that smooth of a paper. Just because Polychromos is a bit more dense of a pencil, and the softer pencils just goes on that super smooth paper a lot easier. But I think also that was probably one of the issues with trying out Polychromos, is that I always use them on the paper that I like to use with my Prismacolors and Luminance. So that was another thing that had occurred to me. Am I ready for Inktober? Yes, I am ready for Inktober. I'm gearing up and ready to go, and I look forward to it this year. Since I'm branching out and not doing the prompts. The prompts are always fun, and they do spark a unique sense of creativity, trying to come up with something based on just a word. But this year, just doing the family chibis, I'm excited about that, because I know a lot of you have come across my channel because of the Inktober streams, whether it was last year or whether it was 2 years ago. Gosh, I can't even believe that. Some of you that I've known for so long, it's just crazy. But yeah, I'm really excited about it, and looking forward to spending time with all of you for the month of October. And I'll be varying the streams. The streams won't be at the same time each day. I'll schedule them out the day before, and I'll be doing them sometimes in my morning, sometimes in my afternoon, sometimes in my evening, just so that I can kind of get everyone at least once throughout the month. Have I tried Pastel matte with colored pencils? Funny that you ask, Wendy. Currently Currently, the colored pencil tutorial that we are doing on Patreon was supposed to be on Pastel Mat, but when I started, I forgot that I was supposed to do it on Pastel Mat. I don't remember. I think I was still getting over my cold. I'm pretty sure I was sick like the week before, and then I was still had a cough or whatever when I started, and I completely forgot that I intended to use Pastel Mat for the project. But for the next colored pencil project, another landscape, I will be using Pastel Mat, and I will not forget this time. So it will be the first time that I try Pastel Mat and colored pencils. So I'm very excited to try it out and see how it goes. How about Nugget? Are you gonna see him in those pictures? Absolutely, Anna. Gotta see Nugget. In fact, for the first day of Inktober, I'm gonna be drawing a chibi me, and of course Nugget, and probably Noodle. Noodle's gonna find his way in there, and of course Popcorn. Popcorn's gonna find his way in there as well. So we'll have all the family pets. Don't you worry about that. But day one will just be me, and I'll just put me in the center, and then all of the family members I draw after that will just be interacting with everybody. It's just going to be one big old collage of us, one big group photo of the family members. Oh, hey there, Jesse. Good to see you. Took me a couple of projects to get used to it, but it's your go-to now. That's cool. I'm wondering whether or not that would happen for me anyway, because you know how I don't like texture. But I'm certainly interested in how it's going to turn out using Pastel Mat with colored pencils. Because I mean, certainly over the past year, I've just heard so many people gushing about it, and I've been wanting to give it a try, just never committed a project to it. And to be honest with you, I have so much Pastel Mat in my drawer. I bought like I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago. I forget who it was. I want to say it was Helen, actually, that messaged me because I was talking about the price of Pastel Mat from Jackson's because of the shipping, and I was like, man, I wish I could find a better place to order it from. And she gave me she gave me a link to a store in the Netherlands, and that's where I buy my Pastel Mat now, because per pack it was like 10 euro cheaper than Jackson's. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy a whole mess of this stuff, and I bought like 150 euro worth of Pastel Mat, and there's like 2 or 3 packs in there that aren't even open. They still got the plastic on it. So I got a whole bunch of it. So I might as well branch out and use some of it with my colored pencils. Do we email you our photo for Inktober? No, I'm gonna post that. I'm gonna post what to do after the live stream in the Facebook group. But Danny, honestly, if you want to email me a photo, that's okay also. But I don't remember if you were here for when I was explaining, but I want head to toe with the outfit that you want me to draw you in. So otherwise I'm just going to make it up and it might not look like you, or it might not be an outfit that you would be caught wearing. So because I'm not drawing portraits, I'm drawing chibis, so it's gonna look like a big old class photo. Let's see. Be interesting to hear what I think about using colored pencils on a pastel mat. I'm very interested in how it's gonna go. Yeah, and I will of course share my experience and opinion on the matter. Oh, thank you, Angie. Thank you for coming by. Oh wow, the last time you were able to visit was when I still had my locks. That was some time ago. That was some time ago. What store was that in the Netherlands? Let me get that info for you really quick. It's an excellent question. It is called colorpencils.eu, actually. And color is spelled with the UK version of English, so with the unnecessary U. But whatever, I'm not complaining. When I first saw you paint realistic eyes, you put some shavings of pencil in there and crushed it with a spoon. Did you do that with this one? No, I did not. No, absolutely zero fancy or special techniques have been used with this project. Literally just like taking the most careful time and accuracy with my layering and color choice, and just avoiding the highlights in the eyes. The highlights in the eyes are just pure avoidance of coloring the paper. So absolutely zero fanciness going on with this project. And you know, that's something that I really wanted to also kind of test out a little bit. You know, for the most part, I always use solvent in my colored pencil work. And I guess I always assumed that if I was to do something really photorealistic, that I would use solvent. But I have found that by not using solvent in this particular project here, I've increased my level of control, because, you know, even if you use just a tiny bit of solvent, there is still, and even with all of my experience, there's still a small level of error with the way that the color moves and the reaction that you get. And one of the things that you just can't do with solvent is you can't get consistency. I have tried and you just can't get consistency because the wax that sits on top of the paper allows the solvent to either pool or soak, and it soaks in where there's less pigment on the paper, and it pools where there's more. And so no matter how gently you try to apply it or how dry of a brush you have, there's still a little bit of risk in brush strokes or streaking. And I mean, it's still a very effective and wonderful technique, but I don't think that I would want to make that risk of using it attempting this project here. I guess I just really want the maximum level of control and just avoid a solvent altogether. Because I haven't even burnished this. That's another thing that I haven't done. The way that I've gotten this coverage is simply just layering over and over and over and over. And I've never changed my pressure. So there's like a lot of things that I've kind of learned already from this project. One is that I like Polychromos now. It's probably what I will deem as the most valuable lesson of this project, is that I like Polychromos. Now I have to go back and delete all those live streams where I talked about how much I don't like Polychromos, but whatever. But also using the blending stump with Polychromos, I've really enjoyed that. That's something that I've learned. And then also filling in the pinholes of the pigment that you get on paper just by, poking at them a little bit with the pencil and filling them in. And then also burnishing. I haven't burnished. I still get really great coverage, and I've never applied more than the amount of pressure that you've been seeing me do this entire stream so far. Just a very, very light touch and just continuously layering. Let's see. And this is what I've been trying to say. There are times for it, but the most part, I like to avoid solvent. I think the depth is completely different when you don't use solvent. Yes, Chrissy, I like Polychromos. You can quote me. You can quote me. I like Polychromos. One of the other tools that I've kind of toyed around with is the Luminance colorless blender. I've tried it in a few different areas, but I haven't really benefited from it on this particular project. Still, I prefer the blending stump. So. Polys are wonderful for glazing additional color over areas. Isn't photorealism more of a challenge at such a small size? Yes, that is absolutely true. You see, a lot of photorealistic and like true to form photorealistic paintings and drawings and things that you will generally come across like on Facebook and social media in general, Instagram. There's a mild allusion to how photorealistic the pictures are, because when you do something like really big, say if I were to use this entire sheet of paper, which I think is 11 by 14 inches, but I were to draw this same exact thing, it would be, it'd be quite a bit bigger. And when I take a photo of it and then, it's shrunk down to your phone or shrunk down to even your computer monitor, it's gonna look impossible. And that's because at the size you're viewing it, it is impossible. It's not possible, because you're going to be able to pick out little details that are inhuman to create. And that's a reality, because, the smaller you get, the smaller you have to be able to draw or create any kind of mark that represents something as small as a hair follicle or an eyelash or what are those called? What's the thing on your skin? What is that? This stuff here, if you can see it. I can't remember the name. Anyways, oh, that's gonna bother me. The heck is the name? Someone help me out here. What's the name of the texture on your skin? Pores, that's it. If you can make a circle and it be the same size as a pore, but then you shrink it down after you take a photograph of it, then obviously that level of detail is not physically possible. So right now, I'm able to get this photorealistic, kind of close, if I don't spit on it first, because it's larger than life size. So I'm doing the eyes, forehead, bridge of the nose, at a size that is larger than life, because these eyes are about twice as big as they would be in person. And so that gives me a little bit of flexibility to do things like the pores and the eyelashes and have them to scale as what they would actually be in person. Because the eyelashes, since I can't physically draw a line that is as thin as a hair. You can try all you want and you can say you did it, but you're wrong. And so you have to scale that up in order to even draw what exists there, scaled to size. And then of course you take a picture of it, you shrink it down, and it looks unreal to be a drawing. But this is about minimum size, I'd say. Any smaller than this, and I don't think photorealism would be very attainable. Oh, hello, Sandri. I didn't see you come in. For anatomy, do you have to learn how to draw each muscle? No. That is a negative. I don't think that... I don't even think that really knowing all the muscles is essential either. For drawing anatomy, I think what is best is to know, you should know the large muscle groups. You should know the pectoral muscle, you should know the deltoids and the lateral muscles and like the hamstrings and quads, biceps, triceps. You should know the major muscles that really influence anatomy, but I don't think that it's entirely necessary to get into the submuscle groups. I mean, I think that it could be, I think that it is beneficial to know every single muscle and skeletal structure when doing anatomy. I don't think that you could, I don't think that you could be a master of anatomy, drawing anatomy without knowing all of those things. But you could certainly be pro and not know those things. So I guess it just depends on how good you want to be. If you want to be a master, then you got to know it all. If you want to just be a pro, then you just need to know enough. Oh, thank you, Arjun. I appreciate that. I'm glad you like my work. Hopped in earlier already, but now I can watch a bit longer. Oh, cool, cool. I appreciate your guys' questions today. It's always a pleasure getting some questions, and I hope that my answers have been at the very least entertaining. And please don't feel like you can only ask one question. I could be here all day answering questions, and honestly, the more questions you ask, the longer I will stream for. So if you want the stream to last longer, just keep asking questions. I gotta stand up and stretch my legs a bit. You know, the other thing that this project has made me reevaluate doing blurry backgrounds. Doing blurry backgrounds in colored pencils is like one of those things that just everybody and their mom struggles with. And I've made a tutorial on doing blurry backgrounds in colored pencils, but goodness, doing it this way, doing it really, 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 really slow like this, I don't think you could get a better result. And that's whether or not, that's regardless of whether you are just doing a out of focus background or a background that has bokeh circles. Do I have your next oil painting planned? Oh, that is a great question. I have been thinking about a lot. I do have another panel, exactly the same size. Once I started working on that one, I bought another one because I was having so much fun that I was like, I am definitely doing another oil painting. That I went ahead and bought another panel. I don't have a clear-cut idea right now, but I have a lot of ideas, a lot of different ideas, and I had considered turning it into a little bit of like a mini series, maybe like doing just 2 or 3 paintings with a similar color palette and concept, but I don't think I'll do that. It's still a possibility. I just haven't made up my mind really. And then of course I've considered a plethora of other ideas. Just haven't committed to one. Well then tell me, what did you think about Amsterdam? Amsterdam was an absolute blast. It was definitely a vacation my wife and I needed. It was just, it was just really great to get away with her and explore a little bit more of Europe because I've just been feeling, I, like before the trip, I had just been feeling like I've lived in Poland for like 3 years. I mean, I've been to London and I've been to Prague, I've been to Germany, I've been to a few different cities here in Poland as well. But I didn't feel like I've really been traveling a lot, and I want to see other countries and other cities, and now that I've experienced a bit of Amsterdam, I definitely want to see more museums. Oh my goodness. I that was probably one of the biggest highlights of Amsterdam is just the sheer amount of museums you can go visit. And we did a full day tour of the Rijks Museum and the Van Gogh Museum, and that experience changed my life. More so going to the Rijks Museum. The Van Gogh Museum was great, but as far as what really just, and I'm not even over exaggerating, going to the Rijks Museum changed my life. And it took like maybe 4 minutes. It took like 4 minutes of being inside the Rijks Museum for my life to have changed from that point forward. And I had never, I had, before that moment, going into the Rijks Museum, I had never stood in front, physically able to see the work of real masters from the Renaissance. On display was Rembrandt. Am I going to even remember the names? Rembrandt and, oh my gosh, I feel awful now. Oh gosh, I'm terrible with remembering names, but Vermeer, Rembrandt, Vermeer, and there was two other ones, very, very popular ones. I can't remember off the top of my head. I wasn't prepared for this, but standing in front of their work and seeing what they actually look like, because I've seen photographs. I mean, who hasn't seen photographs of their work? And to be honest with you, I never really cared much. I honestly, I didn't really give them much thought because I'd only ever seen photographs. And I'll tell you, photographs are worthless. Completely 100% worthless. You can't see anything in a photograph of an oil painting. As far as I'm concerned, a photograph of an oil painting is pretty much the worst thing you could ever look at. And when I saw what their work looked like in person, I mean, I couldn't stop staring at it. I didn't want to move on. We were in a group. We were in a small private group, whatever it's called, tour. And I didn't want to move. I just wanted to sit there and stare at the one painting. Like every time we went to a new location, it was like, oh my gosh. And I just wanted to stand there. But then the group was moving on, and I was like, I don't want to go anywhere for like the next 24, 36 hours. I just want to stand here and stare at this magnificent creation, because I just couldn't believe the I just couldn't believe the essence that they captured in their paint. It was unbelievable. And my level of admiration was probably like a 1, right? Before I'd ever seen it. And when I left there, I couldn't hold them in higher regard. I can't hold them in higher regard right now because it's just magnificent. And if you have never seen the work of masters, and been to a museum and physically stood in front of them, then whatever you're waiting for, stop waiting. Like, go as much as you can, and go as soon as you can, because it is 1,000 times worth it and over. So, yeah, that's a little bit about the museums. And as far as the Van Gogh Museum, I was more impressed with Van Gogh's work than I thought I was going to be, because he's much more impressionistic. And I learned more about his story, about his life and his process. And I was able to relate to Van Gogh because Van Gogh, his artwork was heavily influenced by Japanese art. And my art and my life as an artist was also heavily influenced by Japanese art. And I just kind of had that little bit of connection with him. And, seeing pictures of his work, seeing all the dashed lines and, just the kind of impressionistic look, I was never impressed by it, because I was like, I don't really care for it. Like, it doesn't really appeal to me. But when you see that work in person, you understand the level of mastery he had with his use of color and his discipline to his form. Because when you look at the dashed lines in a photograph, it doesn't really register with you. But when you see it in person, you realize how disciplined he was in his process of just doing a dashed line. And so I hold his work in very high esteem, because you don't get that perception from photograph of his work. And when you see it in person, you realize just how impressive he was as an artist. And his story's a bit heartbreaking, but also motivational at the same time. But yeah, it was a good museum, and I would recommend it. I would say if you find yourself in Amsterdam, which you should, it's a fantastic city. Go to the Rijksmuseum with no tour guide. Don't do a tour guide of the Rijksmuseum. You don't need it, and it would have been much better if I could have just bought a ticket and went there and walked around at my own pace. But I would recommend a tour guide of the Van Gogh Museum. I think that having somebody tell you about his life story is just really fun and interesting. And you get through the museum in a reasonable amount of time without really missing anything. So I think it's a good experience using a tour guide with the Van Gogh Museum. As far as the rest of the city, the restaurants were fantastic. Super, super easy being vegan in Amsterdam. I'm almost jealous. The food was just so amazing. Actually, there is this there's this place called the Meatless District. I don't know why they call it that. It's literally just a restaurant. But my wife and we went there, and what did I get? I don't remember what I got, because what my wife got was fish and chips, right? Fish and chips. Obviously, it was vegan. It wasn't actual fish. But it came out. Like, our food came out. I looked at her plate. I could smell her plate. And I was like, I think that's actual fish. Like, I think you have real fish there. And it smelled like fish. It looked like deep fried fish. and it had the texture of fish when she broke it, when she ripped it open or whatever. It had the texture, the look, the smell, everything. And she took a bite of it, and she was a little concerned that it might have actually been fish. And I took a bite of it. And my stomach dropped out. You know when you get like scared or something? Because I thought that I had just I thought I had just swallowed fish. And I have been, ever since I've been vegan, I've been extremely strict to the T. I've never once cheated or slipped up or had a slice of cheese or nothing. 100%, like the day I went vegan, from that day, never. And so my stomach dropped out because I was like, oh my God, did I just eat meat? And I took it, I went to the waitress and I was like, is this fish? And she just laughed at me and she's like, no, it's vegan. And she's like, we get this all the time. This always happens. And I was like, I can't believe this isn't fish. It blew my mind. I to this day, I think she was lying to me because I would have fought everybody in that restaurant. Because it was definitely fish. Yeah, so anyways, the food was great. The people were actually not as friendly as I thought. You know, we would go to restaurants and things like that, I never really experienced like just nice people. It didn't bother me severely or anything, but I did get that impression at more than one place, like 3 or 4 places. So that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. The other thing is the amount of bikes. I'd never seen so many bikes in my life. Everybody and their mom has a bike, and their bikes just line the sidewalk. And when you cross the street, you look both ways. But when you cross the sidewalk, you also have to look both ways. So there's so many bikes. And I wanted to rent bikes and ride out to the countryside to see the famous windmills, but it was raining the entire trip. Every single day it rained. It didn't ruin the trip by any means, but yeah, it did rain constantly. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of Amsterdam. I probably missed like a billion other questions in the midst of that story. Let me scroll back up, see if I missed anything. Have I already revealed the oil painting? No, I have not. I won't post a picture of it until probably several hours after I upload the video. The video will be the reveal, and that will be the only reveal for a bit. Let's see. Will I be posting Inktober pieces like you did last year? Absolutely. Not only will I be posting each updated portion of the chibis from Inktober, but I'll still be sharing everybody's Inktober pieces. I'll still be collecting the pictures of people's Inktober pieces and sharing on the live stream, just like I did last year, just like I did the year before that. So people that are still following the prompt, or not following the prompt, it doesn't matter, as I'm not following the prompts. But yeah, so I still want to see everybody's Inktober pieces and share them on the live stream. So I'll be doing that. Let's see. Sounds like jackfruit. I don't think it was jackfruit, Wendy. I've had jackfruit, and I don't think it was jackfruit. I I don't know what it was. Maybe maybe it was jackfruit. It was certainly not like any jackfruit I'd ever had. Um, but there's a possibility. Um, uh, yeah, there's a lot of different textures with jackfruit, but I don't know what it was. Um, I think it was actually soy based. I think the waitress mentioned that, but I can't recall. Either way, it scared me. Seaweed and corn. There was definitely seaweed involved because it had that like nori taste, um, that gave it the fishiness. There was definitely that involved. But it was really well hidden because I mean it looked like fish. It was white like fish. And trust me, I've had a lot of fish in my life before I was vegan because my dad used my dad used to go fishing all the time. I'd go with him and we would catch fish and bring it home and he would prepare it. And so I'm no stranger to fish. I had it for the first 19 years of my life. So to convince me that it was fish was definitely impressive for sure. I mean, I've been vegan for a little over a decade now, but that doesn't mean I forget what meat tastes like. I still remember what it tastes like. Um, and it was, yeah, it was impressive. How long? I've been streaming for an hour and a half already. An hour and a half, and I've almost got this strip of color laid in. Not sure what all you guys were expecting me to get done today, but this is actually a pretty decent amount in an hour and a half. Banana blossom has the texture of fish. Oh, interesting. I've never heard of that. I didn't have any real plans for how long uh, I was going to stream today, but I'm getting a little tired because I've been up since 5 and pretty much working since I started editing probably around 6, maybe a little bit before 6, and I didn't stop until about noon. So I'm getting a little worn out. So I probably won't stream for too much longer, unless you guys have some more good questions. And if I missed anybody's question, feel free to ask it again. I don't like to scroll up to try to find them. Have I ever tried the new light fast pencil from Derwent? No, I have not. I've heard some good things and some not so good things about them. I mean, not terrible things or anything like that, but I've had this question before, and I don't have any plans on buying the new Derwent pencils. If Derwent wants to send me some of their pencils to do a review on or something, I'd be happy to do that. But that's about the only likelihood that I would get the pencils, because with the pencils that I have now, I just can't imagine needing another set for any reason whatsoever. And so yeah, I don't think it's very likely that I will get them. What am I reading or listening to lately? Oh, that's an excellent question. I actually just finished up this. I just finished up this book called Sisters, and it is about these two sisters. One is a police officer and one is a lawyer, but they're in Ireland, so they call them Guardia and Barrister, and they kind of like accidentally solve a murder together, but not actually together. So the story essentially is that the barrister lawyer gets assigned to this case about a murder, and I don't know, she has some reservations about whether or not the guy is guilty. And she tells her sister about it, who is a police officer, and she's trying to make detective, and so she decides to just go full vigilante and try to solve this murder, really for no reason at all. Even she mentions in the book that she doesn't know why she did it, but she goes out and about and ends up coming away with just a theory, an idea that doesn't have any actual evidence to it. But yeah, essentially she ends up solving the murder, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not a real deep story or anything, but it was fun. It took like 3 days to get through. But now I'm reading a book on psychotherapy. I've mentioned it a lot, but when I first got out of the military, I was going to school and I wanted to be a psychologist. So I've read a lot of psychology books because psychology has always been an interest to me. And I am reading a book on cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's really interesting so far. I'm like 4 or 5 chapters into it, and essentially it's like a series of lectures, sort of, and interviews with actual patients that are going through CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's meant to teach you a bit about the process of CBT so that you can kind of apply it to your own life. So it's a little bit of a self-help book plus just general psychology. And yeah, it's interesting. I always like books like that. I've read a lot of them. One of my all-time favorite books was actually about hypnotherapy, called The Wizard Within, and it just breaks down like the procedure of hypnosis, and kind of gives you a little bit of a general guidance with self-hypnosis. And I've actually benefited from that book a lot, because I use self-hypnosis all the time. If like when I wanted to be a psychologist, I actually got really interested in hypnotherapy, because hypnosis is a legitimate thing. It really is. Not the stage hypnotism that you often come across people, walking around on all fours and barking like a dog or whatever. That stuff is nonsense. But actual, therapeutic hypnosis is a real thing, and I got really interested in it at one point, and that's what I was considering doing. I felt like I had a voice for it, right? I felt like I had a voice to be a good hypnotherapist, and now I just hypnotize you and make you sign up for my Patreon and convince you that I'm a good artist. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I use self-hypnosis all the time, because I hate doing the dishes. So when I can, I just hypnotize myself so that I can do the dishes but not actually be present in the moment of having to do the dishes, and then before I know it, the dishes are done and I can go on with the rest of my day doing whatever I want. You have to give the Derwent Life Fast a go. I don't think I do. I have 3 sets of pencils and they work perfectly fine. And now that I like Polychromos, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I doubt they have colors that I care to have. And like I said, if they send them to me for free to do a review, then I'll be happy to take them and give them a run for their money. But I'm not spending money on them. That won't happen. I like the book of Should I Stay or Should I Go from Dr. Ramani, about narcissism in relationships. What are some of the books that you guys are into right now? Anybody have some suggestions? I have a couple other books lined up after I get through this cognitive therapy book, but I'll be through them relatively soon. Doesn't take me a long time. That has always intrigued me. Recently I've learned there is such a thing as neuropsychology I must research. It purportedly helps with autoimmune diseases like mine. I've heard of neuropsychology as well. Kind of like using the power of the brain to heal the body, that kind of thing. That's certainly something that I've looked into in the past as well. I think really great practitioner that uses maybe not so much neuropsychology, but I think I think neuropsychology could be considered the foundation of the practice, but the I don't even know, the Iceman. I just had his name. Wim Hof, the Iceman, Wim Hof. His meditative therapy for all kinds of stuff. I would say that his meditative therapy for strengthening and healing the body is probably grounded in neuropsychology. And if you've never heard of the Wim Hof method, then I highly recommend watching the documentary on YouTube. I mean, there's several documentaries, but I use the Wim Hof breathing method to just turn my mood around, or to just feel better, or to give myself energy. It's actually, it's funny that I'm bringing it up, because I actually did it right before the live stream because I was already feeling a little lethargic, and so I just did a quick breathing exercise to give myself a bit of a boost of energy. And I'm no lie, the Wim Hof method is 100% legitimate, and it's an experience. You can find several tutorials on his actual breathing method that he teaches, and I would recommend that everybody take an hour, just 1 hour, and do the Wim Hof breathing method, and you will be convinced, because it is an experience. But you have to commit to it. You can't do it halfway. You really have to just go all in with it, and you'll be amazed at how wonderful it feels. Can't really describe the feeling, because everybody's experience is different and unique, but just finished American Gods. Interesting. Listening to Life of Pi. I've heard of Life of Pi. There was a movie or something like that, but the movie was spoiled for me, which in turn feels like it might spoil the book. How do you spell Wim Hof? I think just with one F. The Cimmerian by Tolkien. This is the book that describes the Lord of the Rings background story. You know, I've tried to read the Lord of the Rings. I'm not a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings, and I feel like I'd probably need to be in order to get through that book. I tried reading the Lord of the Rings books several times in my lifetime, and I could never get into it. Maybe it's just the writing style of Tolkien or something. I mean, no disrespect to his story, but I just couldn't find myself interested in it as much as I tried. So I don't know if I'll find myself reading that book in particular, but you know, I did finally finish all of Dan Brown's books, and I gotta say, his most recent book, Origin, if you haven't read any of Dan Brown's books, they're a good read. They're fun to read until you get to the end. He has the worst time trying to end his books, but Origin, however, I think it was released like earlier this year or maybe late last year or something. I don't know exactly when it came out, but it's his newest book, and it is by far his best book. Like, hands down, his best book is Origin. And pleasantly, he actually ends the book really nicely as well. Because all his other books, he gets to the end, and you're like, oh, this is the end. But then he adds like 4 or 5 like unnecessary chapters where he like just keeps going and going and going. And it's like, dude, you should have stopped like 4 chapters ago. We get it. The story's over. You know, the climax happened. This is the end. Why are you still writing? But he doesn't do that so much in the origin. And even though he does a little bit, it's actually pleasant. Whereas in other stories, I think just about every single one of his books up to this one, I was like, oh my gosh, stop writing. But yeah. Origin is a really good book. I might even read it again. It was so good. It was a fun experience. Have I watched the newest season of Mindhunter? Oh my gosh, it was so fantastic, Danny. Yes, absolutely. I watched it. No joke. I watched it in a day. I watched the entire season 2 in a day. I love that show so much. I gotta be honest though, I was a tiny bit disappointed in season 2, because I didn't like how they, I didn't like the way they cut down Ford so much. Like, Ford was like the character in season 1. It was like, this show is about Ford because he is making moves. You know, he's doing stuff. He's taking risks. And I just loved him in season 1. And then, of course, the way season 1 ended, I was like, oh gosh, I wasn't expecting that. And then the way that season 2 started, I was like, what? I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And he got back on the horse, but it still just bothered me the way that they did that to his character. They just cut him down so hard. But I still love the season. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love the season, but I just the first like 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, man, why did they have to do that to my guy like that? Like, why did they have to do that? But yeah, it was definitely a fun watch. You know what's also another fun watch that I totally binge watched? And I'm torn between recommending it and telling you that you have to watch it. And that is, if I can even remember the name. What was the name? Oh, The AO. The letter A and then the letter O. So it's The AO. That's the name of the show. And it has unfortunately been canceled, but there's 2 seasons out. And there's just something compelling about that show. And it was fun to watch. It was just deeply interesting, but it was simultaneously very, very frustrating. Oh, there's going to be moments, if you watch it, fair warning, if you watch it, you're going to start to get annoyed. You're not going to get more annoyed than how much more interested you are in the show, though. That's the thing. It perfectly balances how much it is going to annoy you with how interesting it's going to make you. And I'll just explain what it is that will annoy you about that show. And that is, it continues to increase the level of complexity of what the story is. And if you've never watched the TV show Lost, that's what Lost did wrong. Lost didn't end the show wrong. What they did wrong was they continued to increase the level of complexity of the story. You know, at first it just starts with them on the island, and then out of nowhere there's this weird creature monster thing, and then out of nowhere there's this alarm they have to keep resetting, and then out of nowhere there's time travel, and then out of nowhere there's like this secret island village thingy, and they just, every season they just increase the level of complexity of the story, but they never answered any questions. right? They never answered any questions. Once they got to the end, they're like, we have made so many questions that we can't even possibly answer any of them. And so they just make it into a dream, which is, irritated everybody in the world. But that is exactly what the OA does. The OA continues to increase the level of complexity episode after episode after episode. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to fall for that again. It's very, very irritating. It's super irritating. I don't like when shows do that. You don't have to increase the level of complexity to make the story interesting. And so, so fair warning if you watch the OA. But they do start to answer some of the questions in season 2. So season 1 was most annoying, because when season 1 ends, you're like, what the heck? Like, I have so many questions. They didn't answer anything. And then season 2, it takes some time, but kind of towards the end, you feel like you have a few answers to stuff, but not all of them. And then, of course, season 2 ends, then that's it, season 2. And unless it gets picked up by another network, it has been canceled. Have to go. Okay, Christy. Glad you were able to come by and hang out. I'll see you on the next live stream. Yes, AO is canceled. Currently enjoying Dark, although getting slightly frustrated. Oh, hey there, Steve. Yeah, you're a little bit late. I've been streaming for some time now. But making slow and steady progress on this picture here. It's actually starting to smooth out a little bit. I don't know if you guys can tell, but some of the areas are starting to get quite smoothed. I'm probably gonna call it a day in the next 10 or 15 minutes, because I'm actually, I'm starting to get I'm starting to need tea like right now in order to just stay awake. So I'm gonna have to call it a day in a little bit. But if you guys have any last questions before I go, happy to answer one or two of them while I work on smoothing out some of these areas here. But it has definitely been fun, and even though this is the last drawing journal that I plan on doing, it's not the last live stream. Obviously, I'll be doing Inktober, but it's not like in the future I won't be doing live streams where we can just hang out and chat. After Inktober, I'll probably start scheduling out working live streams, which I'd done a few of them earlier this year. We can still chat, and I will of course answer questions in those live streams, but it will be a little bit more focused on whatever project I'm currently working on, and probably also making a video in the process. So it would be a little less chatty, most likely, but still some conversation there. So if you have enjoyed today's live stream so far, I would appreciate giving it a thumbs up for me. Gotta please the YouTube algorithm god to make any progress on this platform anymore. But I do really appreciate you guys coming by and hanging out, and I look forward to spending the month of October together again for Inktober. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe. And of course, if you want to learn colored pencils or pastels or anything from me, I think I have one more spot available for private lessons over on Patreon. And then of course, if that slot gets filled up, you can always join on Patreon for the live streams every Tuesday and Thursday, colored pencils and pastel live streams. So I always have those to watch. But yeah, other than that, Inktober starts on next Tuesday, so real soon. I'm hoping I can get the video of my oil painting finished and ready to go for Monday, so be on the lookout for that. But I think that's pretty much all I have left to say. Oh, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure for sure. Yeah, I wish you guys happy weekend. Have a fun one. Do something fun. Draw something. Paint something. Create anything. But yeah, I think I'm going to take a break from this. Doing photorealism is very time consuming. You cannot rush. You cannot lose your patience. That is the real secret. There is no extra secret other than just patience. That is all you really need. Yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your Friday and weekend. I will see you all again on Tuesday. So yeah, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.